And we are live. Welcome everyone to Blender today, live once again. A bit later, but here we are. It's a Monday, the 27th of August. It's almost 10 minutes past 9 p.m. here in Amsterdam. We are live, so ask your questions away. You can tag them as at Blender today. So I'm also streaming on Twitch, but usually the questions I read from YouTube, because I have it easier here. So yeah, how have you been, guys? It's been it feels like longer than we actually hang out last time. But no, I've been trying to see the new things that are happening right now, but there is a lot of bug fixing. The big news would be like having the multi-res modifier, but that's also still coming. But it's really likely to happen soon as in like this week. I heard, a little bird told me. These birds are very useful sometimes. I will go and show a few things. You've probably seen the name of this live stream. There is also development happening on the Grease Pencil branch. Yes, the branch that was merged with 2.8. Now it's also holding other little experiments. So it's like a nice playground to polish the features and then move them back to 2.8. So that will be pretty neat. So I compiled that version for you. So we're gonna try it here live. And I didn't ask, but I hope everything is okay, yeah? With the audio. Just give me a thumbs up and I will have it, I will take it as a yes. So, okay, it's been a long weekend, so I'm gonna start with the, with the cheering earlier. While I open this, there is also today at 10 a.m. Today is Monday. Monday is the developers meeting. At 10 a.m. it was the by the way, this is Grols. He is Dutch. Cheers. Today, like every Monday, there is a developers meeting, and the developer that it's integrating, thank you for the thumbs up, that is integrating the Manta flow in Blender. Actually, he said it's pretty much ready to go into 2.8. So the first step, like this, it was developed in 2.7, will be to migrate everything to 2.8 and then just go through review. So this is actually coming to the beta. Like, it feels like it. I don't want to say anything, but it feels like very likely. So that is pretty exciting. Manta Flow, if you don't know, is this awesome fluid simulator for Blender. So let's get to it. So let's go first. So today I was a bit of improvising how to do this. For some reason, I made the event like 2 minutes before starting, so I hope everything is okay. Sorry if you didn't get the heads up, but I'll try to make it as soon as possible. If I don't make the live stream, you're gonna find out on Twitter or Facebook. If you follow Blender Today, there is a Blender, twitter.com/BlenderToday or facebook.com/BlenderToday. So that way you will find out. But if I don't say it, I'm probably gonna make it last minute. If I don't, then if I don't make the event, I will probably make it sooner than later. So let's get to it. Let's hide a bit of a mess that I have here while I was trying to bring the live to life. So okay, I have my little Blender here. I just compiled it like 15 minutes ago. It's the Grease Pencil branch, and I wanted to compile like both. I compiled the 2.8 branch and the Grease Pencil branch, but actually the developers like Antonio Vasquez especially was very active with the Grease Pencil branch, so he actually merged it with 2.8, so it's up to date. So I didn't have to compile the other one. Let's read the meeting notes just to catch up with what's happening here. So yeah, the beta is still under construction. We're still in alpha 2 stage, and cheers. Nice, interesting questions popping up. I will get to them very soon. I will try to explain this earlier and do maybe more time of questions, and even if we finish earlier before 1 hour, that's also okay. Are these, like, as a question, are the 1 hour live streams too long? Sometimes I find some on YouTube they feel very long. Like it's 1 hour. I'm not gonna watch it, but I make 1 hour live stream. So just curious. Let me know in the comments. Yeah. So the work continues in the beta, and there is a discussion going on about dropping 32-bit support. So if you have a 32-bit computer, which is it's not really likely at this time and age, the stats from Blender.org say that actually not a lot of people are downloading the Windows or the Linux for 32-bit. So maintaining those platforms takes a lot of work, and maintaining all the libraries and everything. So their Blender 2.8 will support, like the first version of Blender 2.8 will support 32-bit. So you're not gonna be left out of the party. But for 281, there will be, we want to hear your feedback. So are you really using 32-bit? Are you maybe downloaded 32 bits because you didn't know that you could run the 64-bit on your computer? And the switch has been so long ago. Like even phones support, they have 64-bit nowadays. And Mac dropped it a long time ago, but maybe we can make this a bit easier for the developers to maintain Blender. So yes, let's get to it. That was one of the news, just asking for feedback. What do people think? Still very early. Remember, 2.8 will have 32-bit, so don't worry. Let's get to it. So static overrides also being worked on. That's one of the targets for 2.8, and seems to be going pretty well. Simple rigs seem to work. Spring production rigs, they still have a few issues. So Spring production rigs, so if you don't know, yeah, you know Spring. Spring is the open movie project that is happening at the Blender Studio. And it's using very advanced rigs, like always, because we can do less. We are using Blend rig, which is very, very advanced. It's being used in all the open movies up until now, but it has like over 3,000 bones. So it is a great way of testing static overrides. So what is static overrides, you may ask? That is the system that will likely replace the proxy system from Blender 2.7. So proxy not the sequencer proxies. There is news about the sequencer too. But not more like the actual groups. When you make a group, you can make a proxy in 2.7, and you can edit. Maybe you can make a proxy of the rig, and then you can access the rig for posing and animation, but not for like editing, for example. Static overrides are the new proxy, you can call it, because it allows you to override certain specific parts of a linked group, or the name in 2.8 is collections. Groups are no longer a thing anymore. There is a collection, so you can link a collection and then make a override specific parts, like in this case the rig. So in this case you could have multiple copies, have everything, like all access to all the objects, not like this empty that you don't really have access to. So that is a big improvement. But yes, the rigs are so advanced that the static overrides is having a few issues by importing some of it with this new static override. So it is being really thoroughly tested. Thoroughly, I really like that word. Try to pronounce it properly. It is tested because it has over 3,000 bones. So yeah. Then the Grease Pencil Armature modifier is being reviewed right now by Joshua Aligoriz, the original creator of Grease Pencil, and Antonio Vazquez is the one that brought it to the new Grease Pencil object level. So it's in good hands. Then the tool system continues to be worked on by Campbell. That is a big improvement. There's also icons that have been updated on the UI for the interface. And the annotation icons, for example, now they also have the same coloring scheme that the other one used to have. I kind of like the other ones, but it makes sense to change them. I like the blue ones, but if we have a color code for actions, for example, in this case, the green is like the action of the tool. So if you're in edit mode, you will see that the green is for like adding information, so adding a cut, building, polybuild, green for spin, and the deforming or moving, like transforming, is with pink, but this kind of pink purplish. So with that in mind, the annotation tools now are using the same color scheme. So for adding, when you annotate, is green, and then red for like deleting or erasing. So it is following that. What else? Oh, Clement added a bunch of drawing features, but I actually think I mentioned it last week. Did I? That per object, or I didn't. I make so many videos lately that I have made even a video about my Linux setup, by the way. And not on these channels. I made it on my own channel because it's not really Blender itself, and I really wanted to spoil the Blender-ness on these channels. These channels, I mean the Spanish one and the English one. So the per object viewing settings that were added back were the ones in the panel for viewport display. So you can now enable wireframes for only specific objects. So you can do, like, for example, in this case, the monkey has wireframe while the other ones don't. The X-ray is also brought back, so now you can have objects that are always drawing on top. So if I get this guy, for example, let's change the color here. So you can see that it's always drawing back, even if there are objects in between. So that is the old X-ray that is also back. Great stuff. And there is the shadow was also added there. When you're using X-ray, the shadow might not work as expected because it's just weird to have the objects. So if I enable shadow, the objects that are in X-ray, they're casting a shadow, but they're not receiving a shadow. So it's a compromise that has to be done, because otherwise it's just weird, right? Because when is the object on front or not? So it is the only thing. If you find it weird, it has a meaning. There is a reason for it. And bounding box. So bounce boxes are now back. Yay! You can now add a cylinder bounding box. These things are actually, when we were talking with Clement about bringing them back, it's like, do you really need them? Are they really, like, aren't they just legacy from like the game engine or stuff from the 90s, you know, like you have to draw things fast? But no, actually these things are very handy, even though you can still like you can now make use of more modern OpenGL. You can draw things faster. You can do like instances of stuff. Having a quick and easy way of drawing your meshes is still useful, especially if you have like a million objects, 1,000 objects that you already know the shape. Like maybe there are trees in the distance and you want to have them as cards, or you want to just preview them fast, and that's still useful. So you can limit the maximum draw type. This setting also is back, so you can limit it to bounds, to wireframes. So basically, if you select all of them and then set them as wireframe, you have instant wireframe. Wait, this one, interesting. It's not drawing the wireframe. Why? Anyway, little glitch here. So you get instant wireframe. It's not the way to implement wireframes. I know. Don't start. I think that is all for the viewing options. Most of them, like the X-ray was already there. The X-ray was added. Oh, what? With X-ray can draw it on top. Huh. Clement, if you're watching, I hope you're sleeping because you worked too hard. But if you're watching this, hey, look at that. X-ray actually makes the drawing work or not, which is strange. Anyway, alpha state. let's move on. Alpha is like the excuse for everything. Now it's in alpha. Then the light's been working. I think I mentioned this already last week. But besides bringing back the drawing for all the motion tracking tools, is also, it doesn't stop. He's actually making the, remember multi-object editing? So you can have, okay, let's start from scratch. So you have multiple objects and then you can enter edit mode, all of them at the same time. This is a new feature from 2.8. It was like a proof of concept, so you can actually access all of them. You can select the vertices. You can perform some stuff, some actions, but you can't really do, you couldn't really do much more than that. It was like okay, proof of concept. That's possible. Why? Because every operator, everything that you, every action that you perform has to be extended to work with more than one object, right? Because this was implemented when it was added time ago, like the editing a mesh. It was all thinking of you only having one object. So now every tool have to be updated for the multi-object editing. There was a call for that. Remember time ago, it was like Blender developers workforce, I think. New grease pencil, it was somewhere here. So basically we are making a call in this, okay, this is not happening, but there is in the Blender developers YouTube channel, there is a call for help. So getting people involved in converting all of these operators into new ones, into using the multi-object editing. Here, contribute to the task force. Yay.
Oh, look, I didn't see you there.
Oh, wow, like nice. Look at that. It's a happy studio full of developers. I want that again. It's well, if you've seen this video, if you find it here, you will see if you're a developer or you want to get into development, it's a really good way of helping out. So there are a few links down here where you can see the task that it's about updating all of the operators that are missing for editing multiple objects, and you should check it out if you want to get into development. And if you have any doubt about Blender development itself, you can always access devtalk.blender.org and just go to Blender development and ask your questions, because this is for developers especially to get their doubts solved. Let's continue. I have a deeper voice today for some reason. I hope it stays like that, but no. Still a teenager. Sergey worked on multi-res. Yeah, I already mentioned that already. It's working there, but still needs polish. Remember, this multi-res is not the same as 2.7. It's actually much cooler because it's using OpenSubDiv, the subdivision technology by Pixar. So it's gonna be much better. That's about it. The MantaFlow, this is what I mentioned before. So it's proposed to be merged into 2.8. So yes, MantaFlow is freaking awesome. And if you go to graphical.org, there have been a few updates here by Juan G. Rodriguez. He's updating every 2 weeks already. So it's you should check it out. If you're on Windows, there is builds. If you're on Linux, I think there's not yet, but you should compile your own. It's very easy to compile on Linux. I should make a video about that. If I keep saying, yeah, it's very easy, but I don't really show it, so I should make a video about it. And that can go here in Blender today. That is about it. So yes, so let's go. Let's get to it. Let's open Blender and do stuff. Oh, I didn't talk about the sequencer stuff. Basically, there is an update on the power sequencer 1.1. So this awesome script by GD Quest, but with a group of people, actually many contributors are helping out. You should check it out because it makes the video sequencer great again. If it ever was. No, of course it was, but it makes it super awesome because it adds things that are really missing in the sequencer. For example, the rendering a video with multiple threads, like multi-threaded rendering basically. Right now, if you are familiar with the sequencer, you might know that when you render, like when you export a video, it takes forever because it's only using one thread. So it's very, very slow. But with this very nice script that is part of the add-on itself, you can make it use as many workers as you want, or many Blender instances. And it seems like it basically opens a bunch of blenders and then merge them all together, like exports them multiple times, and then it merges them together. So it's pretty nice. There is lots of features here, so you should check it out. There's many like just little usability things, like selecting all the strips from one side, selecting all on the other side, by just it like depending on your mouse cursor. So it's really in a smart way of improving the sequencer. And I really hope, like all the little one, like swap strips. You can now, it's crazy that Blender has swap strips from like left to right, or like move them around. But this little add-on does it, and it's free, as in freedom. It's on GitHub, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, it's on GitHub, so you can download it, you can use it, you can do anything you want. And hopefully, if oh yeah, they're asking actually. This is why I wanted to mention it here, because they are asking for a few things. UX designer, if you're experienced with like user experience design and you want to propose an interface for these new features, you should get in touch with them, because there's actually a developer that is waiting, like is ready to code the interface for it, but there just needs like a nice design for it. So make sure you get in touch with them, because it will really help. Or if you know how to make, if you make like little short tutorials about specific features, that will also be very, very useful for them. Or bug reports and testing and everything. Or if you want to make new features, they're also welcome. So it's a very nice project that we should support. And hopefully one day it can become the sequencer 2.0. Or like, you should be part of Blender's itself, right? Like the node wrangler, like using the node editor without the node wrangler is almost impossible. And so this should be just as good for the sequencer. It's proving to work, and they use it in production, like for their own videos, so it's pretty nice. So let's support them. GD Quest Blender Power Sequencer. And that's about it. Okay, let's open Blender, because I've been talking too long. And let's get to it. Everything is going okay? Yes. A video about compiling blenders. Hey Manu, okay, I'll make it. The video that I made, I just want to quickly do a shameless plug. It's on youtube.com/Pablo Vázquez, because every time I make a video, there is a question about my Linux setup. So I just made a 25-minute video, very short. So half a live stream basically, showing everything from where I start, how to like the icon theme that I use, the theme that I even answer some questions from Twitter. So yeah, if you want to get into Linux or want to theme your Linux, actually, so someone today already tweeted at me a picture of their new Linux theme setup. So that was pretty nice. All right, I said everything I wanted to say. There is new stuff coming to Blender Cloud in a couple weeks, including a new redesign that I'm working on, off topic, but I'm working on at the Blender Studio, my job. All right, so let's get to it. The grease pencil armatures. So, okay. It sounds kind of clickbait, because I just mentioned it It's my cursor there. I should mention it that it would be that, yeah, we're gonna have armatures and grease pencil and stuff, and it's really just like it should work. So it's more like a, yes, you add a 2D drawing, and then you add an armature. So for example, you have this little guy here, you have there, and then we can probably make like this, maybe with one ear, and I'm gonna make the other guy. So let's see if all the shortcuts are there. Shift D, yes. Control M for mirror, yes. X, yes, it's working. So now I just need to first press the pivot. There you go. Ah, it's not updating the, so yeah, dot for changing the pivot to my center cursor. So now Control M and then X, yay, it is there. So now I have everything. I can just even clear the roll. We don't have a roll tool, no. Ah, because it's a command. Yeah. Recalculate roll. I don't think I need it for now. Let's see if it works. So basically the same way you do it with an armature and a mesh. So you select both. So you select they're overlapping here. You select both and then you do Control P for parenting. And you can even set automatic weights. So that is pretty neat. Once you do the automatic weights, you can start moving your bones around. And so you can see it can have its issues here, but overall it's pretty neat. I think the best way would be to, instead of using that, using the groups themselves, would be to use envelopes. Is that working? I haven't tested this one, and they're probably gonna kill me because, okay, there. So I can do the envelopes, and then maybe I can preview the envelopes with a nice drawing. And maybe I can use X-ray is not working yet for armatures, or is it? No. So I can do Shift Alt S. There you go. There. Let's try to make this a bit more thick. Some little thick boys coming out, and let's. No, it's not really working as expected yet. But we could fix it. It's on the review still, so sorry for the underwhelming, but it's promising. And you know, you can always just link to, okay, if you delete the armature, it crashes. And Antonio, if you're watching this, you can always link the grease pencil objects just to a bone. You can parent them to a bone. So if you have a bunch of bones here, you can parent the grease pencil objects just like if they were regular objects. So if you add a grease pencil, you can always parent to a bone with Control P, and then, oops, the rotation is there. So now you can actually move the bone and you can snap it there. So Shift S, snap selection to cursor, and then you can just animate this. So you can actually do like a more cutout style animation with this. What else? So that was all about the armature. There is also new operators. If you want to copy layers between objects, you can still do it. Copy layer to object. So if you select if you have a layer here that you're painting on. So for example, let's delete the layer, select another one. If you add you're painting in a new layer, you can, like for example here, I'm here, you can copy this to the other object. So you have the copy the active object, remember last, Blender is weird, and then you can move it to the other one, and here is the layer. So you can copy paste basically from one to the other, and that is, I'm using the most terrible colors actually. Let's change then the color of this layer. So for example here, let's assign There you go. So now I made it completely white. So if I copy this now to the other, here, the last one is the active, and then copy layer to object, you see it will copy with the color of that new layer that I added. So it doesn't take everything, it copies just that information. So that is pretty nice. That is fantastic. We want to copy things from one to the other. I will, Oli, wow, it's almost 20 minutes to 10. Let's start with the questions, otherwise I'm gonna run out. Right, okay, I will scroll just as always. Remember, I scroll all the way up as much as YouTube lets me, and then I start reading. And just to be fair, I usually start at 9, which is when the live stream is supposed to start. So, happy everyone. Got my coffee and Vegemite toast. Hey, wow, on the other side of the planet, upside down. That's a joke. I'm also from the Southern Hemisphere, so fellow Southern Hemisphere. Let's move on. I will jump to the questions that are highlighted in orange. So sorry if I don't go to the other ones, but it helps me be a bit faster. I'm really curious how the time travel feature is coming along. I want to see Blender 5. Well. The time travel feature, no. How can you even know that? Time travel will come. Probably is already here. How would you know? How would you detect a time traveler? Maybe it's animation nodes. Maybe everything nodes is time traveling, because everything is everything, right? And it's nothing at the same time. Rataman Martinez asks, which is the future of Blender with the new RTX? Well, it depends on NVIDIA, right? If they actually said that, I mentioned it on the last live stream, I think, that Ton talked with the people at NVIDIA and they're pretty happy to help. So I think once it matures enough, it can be, and the license is completely compatible with Blender. So I think it's very promising. So yeah, let's see what the industry says and what the NVIDIA says with Kaching, because it takes a lot of development effort. And really, like ray tracing is not like the highest priority right now. I'd rather have a particle system. Well, maybe ray tracing can help with that for like heavy computational stuff, but I'd rather have everything nodes first. Hey, Kaniganti. As the features slow down and the developer team is more focused on performance and bug fixes, will this be showed more focus on discussion? Wait. As the features slow down and the developer team is more focused on performance and bug fixes, yes, there is performance stuff going on, especially like supporting more older Intel graphics. So if you're using an Intel graphics and Eevee is not working well for you, or 2.8 in general, then good news, because that's being worked on as we speak. Probably because these crazy devs work at night. So yes, will this be show more focus on discussion? Will this show be for more focus on discussion? Oh, like Blender Today itself, you mean? Yeah, actually, well, Blender Today is is the English version of why I started as Blender Hoy, which I started more than a year ago in April or so last year. That I was doing only in Spanish, and then people were saying, hey, you're only doing it in Spanish, you should do it in English. And that's why I'm doing it in English too. And at the beginning, since 2.8 was still far from, like 2.78 was coming out, or 79. So I was talking about the community stuff and development itself. I was testing it, but it was more like a discussion. I was more talking with the people because there was more time. And at the time, I remember I was mainly like, I didn't have like a way of making the show. That's a fun thing that you learn when you're making this kind of stuff often, every week, is that you learn to structure it a little bit. And this structure of first showing and then asking the questions came out from the community. Like, people proposed it, and it actually works this way. So when the scale cage coming back? Also, wait, it's not. Did it ever go away? Scale cage, right? Hey, it's not showing the gizmo. Okay, I did not know this. So yeah, it's nice to report it, but it should come back. Can we make anime in Blender? Yes, you can. Just Google, well, actually you can go to the blender.community. If you don't know blender.community, you are missing out. That's a place to hang out for all kinds of stuff. There is communities for in Portuguese, in Spanish. The Blender Today community is right there, where Blender Today was born like 4 years ago. Right click select, you probably know this one. It's like the most active community in Blender communities. And there is a Blender NPR community here, where you can see all the stuff the community is reporting. So it's pretty nice. You can see all kinds of posts here, and you should post your own as well. Or you can also do hashtag NPR or hashtag Blender B3D NPR on Twitter, and you will find a lot of stuff. Or you can just follow. I usually, the Blender Today, this sounds like an advertisement, but actually I like to retweet with the Blender Today Twitter, which we're more than 4,000 now, yay. I like to retweet nice art. So if you have a nice art that you want to retweet, you can also add Blender Today and I will see it more. I try to every now and then when I have some free time, go through the artwork that I like and I retweet, like this one. This is fantastic. This is awesome. This is by Currobot. It's very nice. And for example, this tweet is in Spanish, but I like to retweet things in other languages, because on Twitter you can just translate and then you just see it. So it's a like sometimes there is tweets in like Chinese. There's a nice cutout animation here by Juan Moliner. It's very nice. It's for doing cutout, for testing cutout. But for example, this is awesome. And it's all in Japanese, but you can just click on translate and read it. So it's fantastic that you can do this kind of stuff. And I love this artwork. Whenever I see like doing stuff, like you see Blender 3D NPR, that's the hashtag you have to search for. It's just fantastic. Look at this. Follow Blender Today on Twitter. Next, any news on OpenSubdiv and interactive mode? Yeah, OpenSubdiv is coming like this week, hopefully, or next week if there's anything, nothing goes wrong. So hopefully very, very soon. I'm gonna make a video on the Blender Developers channel, and it's gonna be the star of the show in the next Blender Today live. Marcus Polio asks, oh, and in interactive mode, no news, because I think every week I say it, that it's, let's wait for September, later October, for news on that. I think the date was kind of hinted when we mentioned it in July. We had the meeting here with Benoit Olse, that it would be like later September, October, November, around that. So yeah, hi Pablo, hi Marcus, thanks to all the devs, yay, thank you devs. Question is, the Spring team is using the latest Summit of Code improvements already? No, the Spring team is using pure Blender 2.8 with its flaws and its improvements. So some things that Blender, like they miss, especially I think Julian is missing some add-ons for sculpting that he uses, but besides that, I think Andy has everything. He even says like working with the new collections and everything is much better right now, because you can actually handle way more, like organize your scene much more than just being limited to 20 layers. So that's very nice to hear from the Spring team. You should go and you should check out the production log number 6 here on the YouTube channel of the Blender Cloud. You can see it's a nice 9 minutes of pure awesome artwork, and like look at this creature, it's fantastic, it's awesome, only the best, like the t-shirt from Julian says. Let's leave it there in the background, so it's very uncomfortable if you are watching, Julian, to see yourself and somebody else talking. Next, when will we see local mode? That is that's planned. It's not like a priority right now, because all the tools pretty much are there. It's gonna be implemented. It's like wireframe. It's like not a huge priority right now, because there's other ways of achieving that. The priority is like making Blender not close, for example. What is the Twitch stream link? The Twitch stream link is in twitch.tv, and it is my personal one because there is not a lot of people there yet. So yeah, here you can see it's so weird. So here's like 100 and something followers. And I didn't make a dedicated Blender Today channel there because I haven't really, eek, I'm watching myself. Because not a crazy amount of people is there yet, and I don't know if it's an overkill to stream to both places all the time. Thank you for the thumbs up before. So did Tangent Animation have close communication with the Blender developers when creating next gen? Yes and no. Actually, yes, in a way that they're completely like they're massive supporters. Like if 2.8 is what it is right now, is highly thanks to Tangent Animation. If you see the sponsors list, you see major supporter Tangent, and since always they always supported the development directly to the Blender Foundation by hiring developers. And among all of that, they're also working with their own developers on improvements on other parts of Blender, like OpenVDB. I know they've been working on it, like they've been using it, like integrating with Blender. So once they like the tool is more stable, because when you're in production, you make it very custom to your stuff. So once that is more stable and it can be like rolled out to Blender itself, then we all benefit from this. But yeah, they actually surprised. They made the first feature film. They made it like really not even reporting that many bugs. Like they single-handedly made a feature film with Blender and not complaining as much as they should, because like it's a freaking feature film. It's huge. It's like making 20 shorts. I don't know. You're a bird lover. Am I a bird lover? I think I am a bird lover. Every time I start drawing, I end up drawing this character that I like, which is it's a character that I made time ago, and it's a very low res, but yeah, you've probably seen it if you've been. Eek, don't tell me there is a DJ called Fraka. Don't. Anyway, Fraka is the character that I made time ago, and I always end up drawing this guy. Now I draw more the llama from from Caminandes, but I always draw this character. I don't know why. I like birds. Piper, awesome short, by the way. When modifiers in edit mode are coming soon, it's just can't have a date right now, but the developer that we work on is still working on OpenSubdiv, so you have to like juggle between projects. So yes, it will come. Let's say beta, let's say October. So I mean, maybe of course it's gonna come earlier, but let's say October just to calm the dates. Joe Petter says, hi Pablo. Hi. I noticed that the shading overlays toolbar in the 3D viewport sometimes is anchored in the bottom and sometimes in the top. No. This you mean? Well, in every new file, it should always be on the top. That's a new convention in Blender 2.8 that we moved like when you open Blender 2.2079, factory settings, some headers are at the bottom. This header, for example, for the property is on the top. For the outliner is on the top. For the dope sheet, I don't know how to pronounce it word, sorry. It's on the bottom, but for some others, like the file browser, is on the top. So for 2.8, we went with consistency and moved all the headers to the top by default. You can always right click and flip it, but every new, like if you start from scratch, it will always be on the top. So it's just a matter of how you configure Blend. If you move it to the bottom and save, it will be saved that way because freedom. Let's move on. sorry for the second mention. Why is the default cube triangulated? It's a mistake. That is a happy mistake, happy accident. So, you know, when you're in Blender, you can save your startup file. So you can have anything. You can have a monkey as a default file, always, like always watching you and judging you when you open Blender. So you can save this as a startup file, and then you close it and it's there, always watching you. Monkey judge you. But so it happens that when updating the default blend file for Blender 2.8, like for introducing the new workspaces, this mistake slipped in. So you basically usually the developers, to test stuff, they make changes. For example, maybe this happened, Control T, which is triangulate on the default cube, and then it wasn't noticed and the default blend file was updated for 2.8. That will be fixed, but is not fixed yet because it will mean to update the start.blend again only for the cube, which is, well, if you know how the versioning works for Git, for like SVN, for example, the one Blender used to have, it was okay with binary files, like they compress them and stuff. But for Git, it's less efficient to save binary files such as startup.blend, just any blend file or image or whatever. So developers try to keep the times the blend files or binary files are updated as low as possible. So why hasn't been updated yet? Well, because there is changes coming to some of the workspaces based on the feedback that we receive on the devtalk blender.org forum. So there is the workspaces thread with very nice feedback from people, and we still have to go through all of them, but we wanted to give a week or two, like just to get, you know, more people to use the workspaces and contribute feedback. So one of the big things was the motion tracking workspace by Sebastian Koenig. He is one of the ones that was involved with the motion tracker from day one when Sergey was making it during Tears of Steel. So he really knows his way around, like he really knows what it's needed all the time. So he is the one in charge of updating it. He proposed this one and it's much better than the one we had here. So it's much more, there's just a few things, you know, like switching things around and changing the settings a little bit. He also did a few changes in the Blender UI itself that makes it a bit easier. So yeah, there is a few things that will change. So the start.blend will be updated with the new changes in the workspaces, and that will include a new non-subdivided cube. But I don't want to break the internet, but let's see how long the default cube stays amongst us. I don't even know how to speak English anymore. Let's continue. So NVIDIA RTX. Oh, yeah, that's I already mentioned. Wayward Art Company says, greetings to you. Will adaptive subdivision be part of the subdivision modifier along with OpenSubdiv, or will it remain experimental? I think the experimental tag is going away, but like for OpenSubdiv, but I'm not sure about the subdivision modifier because that's not part of the first implementation. The first is just to have subdivision working and multi-res and all of that using OpenSubdiv. So I think that will come later. How's the progress on B-bones under constraints like Stretch 2? I haven't heard any news on that, sorry. But if anybody knows, please let me know. I don't follow that much, but I mean I read every commit log. That's how I know all of this. I don't have like a special hotline to talk with the developers. I just spend my days here in the list.blender.org/piper mail, Blender CVS, and then just read all this stuff. It's like poetry. For example, revert changes. Draw manager, remove functions. But no, okay, some of them are very, very interesting. I bet there's lots of stuff here. So you can see, for example, that fluid manta flow is being worked on, B-mesh improvements, all sorts of stuff, new icons here, for example, by William. For the hair tools, yeah, those are getting new icons too, among other things. Let's continue. This is like reading the newspapers for me. You know, wake up, cup of coffee, and read the commit logs. Would it be possible to create a modifier? Yeah, very sad my life, I know, sorry. So double X says, would it be possible to create a modifier that you can use to make a selection of vertices and apply a tool to? Modifier you can use to make a selection and apply a tool. Then that is interesting. No, I don't, you select the tool and it will apply as a modifier, so it's non-destructive. That's interesting, actually. I never seen anything like that. It's a good idea. But no, I mean, would it be possible? Yeah, everything is possible. But no, not that I know. 1 hour feels really short. Thank you. Some are too long, but these are not specially live stream. Thank you. When will the video explaining all the UI changes be published? I think when 2.8 comes out. I'm making this list of changes in the UI. I'm keeping a note, but it's mainly not like the whole UI, like the places where things are moving. That will be another video, more general. But I would like to take a moment and appreciate all the little changes that Blender UI has had, like the simplifying of the roundness option for the controllers, or like the fact that, I don't know if you noticed, but the triangle here is much smaller than the huge triangle that you had in Blender 2. Here, like look at the render, it's like massive. And it's just very like, yeah, okay, the difference is barely noticeable here. But yeah, you can see it. For example, that is a very small thing. Well, simple column layout, yes, that's a big thing. But for example, look at the nice chevron icon that the drop downs have now. It's like this little angle, and in 2.7 they have these lines that go up and down. So those little changes. This is nicer, but it's not always correct, because sometimes the arrow goes up and down. But that should be fixed. And popovers, for example, that's another big change. But yeah, I think I'm talking about more like little changes here and there for making things nicer and making more like the overall. I think the nodes, I also changed it. Yeah, and I mentioned the triangle because I made that change. I'm a hacker. I made the triangle smaller. The action zone where you click is still the same. Don't worry. It just looks a little smaller. And for example, here, then the arrow was colored, which sometimes it can conflict with the color, but in 2.8, the triangle is slightly smaller. Just the action zone is the same, but the triangle is smaller, and it takes the color of the text. So it's not like always, like sometimes you hard to see like here. And also the rounded corners is slightly more square in 2.8 than in 2.7. Like very minor changes, but you can see the effect. All right, let's move on. The roundness is just so it matches the rest of Blender nowadays with the roundness. Is Mantafloor more optimized? Or more optimized? Of course, it's well, it's much more optimized than current Blender fluids, but yes. Is it possible to bake simulation with GPU? I'm not sure about that. I don't know. If you know, please let's comment in the comments. When and what is Blender 101? Good question. Blender 101 is the project where, I mean, it's many levels of a project. The general idea is a Blender that can be customized to be as simple or as complex as you want. Basically, by quickly tweaking the interface, by hiding buttons, showing buttons, changing labels and stuff, like an easy way to tweak the interface so you can remove 90% of the buttons from Blender and give that very simple UI to 5-year-olds to start playing with, you know, like just use it. And then over time you can improve it or like that kind of stuff. So it's more like educational, but it's more than that, because if Blender can be simplified that way, then it means that pro users that don't care about, I don't know, motion tracking and they really like sculpting, they can also tweak their interface. So it's like a win-win for everyone. And it's been like, in general, Blender is being more easy to customize, but the project itself at the moment, it doesn't have like a first target for Blender 2.8 as far as I know. So yeah. Jordan, well, oh wow, I'm running out of time, so let's do 5 more questions. Live streams are just right for the maybe too short when it comes to questions. I do half an hour. I try to do half an hour showing, half an hour questions. It's just I talk too much, sorry. Let's see. 1 hour is very short. Thank you. Meglabit, can you add a hue, saturation, and value modifier to a texture field for grease pencil? I could only get the modifier to work with just a normal field color. Yeah, no, not that I know actually. That's a good idea for the grease pencil team. Wouldn't mind them being 30 minutes, the live streams. Okay. Even on weeks with stuff to show, they're having their own videos dedicated usually. Don't want to miss new stuff though. Yeah, that's the thing. I started making 1 hour because I used to make them 1 hour in Spanish because there is really no Spanish videos about new stuff. That's why I made them the same length. But I would, yeah, I can also try to make it in 1 hour, in half an hour. Can we have buttons in the outliner? Create object button and modifier button to look similar to Photoshop's layer. Well, you can right click and add collection. So maybe there could be like an add object here. Maybe that would be a nice way. But I don't know about buttons because we already don't have enough space here. I mean, we can remove the search or make it like click and shows, but still don't have so many buttons there. You can always right click and have the options for like delete, and we should add the creation maybe here, like add. You do the 10 minutes videos. The 1 hour videos are for people with very interested in Blender developing. Thank you. Yeah, it is. It is. If you're hardcore about learning Blender stuff, this is the place to be. Thank you. Is there a way to make brush in sculpt mode scale when you zoom? So if you zoom to the brush scale down, and if you zoom out, the brush will scale up. Like absolute. Isn't it an option? I'm not gonna check now because I'm running out of time, but is it an option for absolute? Or that was the detail size for the Topo, I think. Our favorite Blender channel. Thank you, Natalia. Cycles in 2.8 is rendering my scenes twice as fast as in 279. It really is much better, or is something not being calculated at render time? It is much better actually. Blender 2.8, or actually the latest builds from Master, are already much faster than 279B, like the official 279. So yeah, there is improvements, and there are more improvements coming, especially with how long it's gonna take to render spring. So there will be improvements coming. Will cycles take advantage of the NVIDIA ray tracing? I already mentioned. Kaniganti says, you're committed to Blender, this channel and your word. Hats off. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. When will 2.8 be able to export OBJ? When the script gets updated, and I think the OBJ exporter is already there. I think that was one of the few that was added time ago for like exporting to for 3D printing. I think, I'm not sure, but the API is the Blender Python API is supposed to be stable for the beta, so that will be in October, which is the time where add-ons can start to get updated without actually wasting time. There are any plans to make Power Sequencer add-on official? I would love to, and if like for making an add-on official, it's basically like it's not something I decide or any, like it's just like a general consensus. If the add-on it follows like the general Blender philosophy in general, like it doesn't like it doesn't change everything, like everything like the icons and the labels, and the removes half of Blender just to make it whatever, then no. But if it follows the rest of Blender and it just fits in, like it just makes it better, like in this case I think Power Sequencer is a perfect example of a great add-on that it just keeps improving it, just adding features here and there in all areas of this one editor, and it just makes it better. So I think it's a big candidate to do it. And the biggest thing is that the developers should be able to maintain it. So they should commit to maintain it, to be part of, like, okay, if this is gonna be maybe add-ons contrib, the community add-ons that are like staging for the official Blender, that could be one way to start. But yeah, I really hope Power Sequencer is the future of the sequencer. Kasem says, Manta Flow will be based on fluid system in Blender, or will just be an add-on? No, it will be like part of Blender itself. No add-on. Andres Savik says, 1 hour streams are far too short. 24/7. Oh, like a Blender TV. That's a good idea. But on a serious note, you should consider doing a pure Q&A session every once in a while. Maybe, yeah, that's a good idea. When I run out of things to say, there's always just too many interesting things showing out. Okay, I will start dropping because I already ran out of time. So, okay, one more. Makes sense to drop 32-bit as the graphic requirements. Yeah, makes sense. Ngon triangulate modifier, not that I know. Python APIs, yes, October. And then 2 more questions. Will Blender support VDV? And second, are there any plans to add a modifier to memorize the changes in edit mode? Like edit poly. I don't know either one, actually. Are there any plans? No, I don't think there are plans right now. Maybe making more tools like non-destructive, yes, but no immediate plans for that. And for VDV, I haven't heard either. But I might be, like, there's development happening all over the world. There's things that companies are making and they're like want to put it in Blender, so it's hard to follow every project. So it might be happening and I missed it. For the time being, what I don't miss is the time. It's 10:10. It's 1 hour already, so let's wrap it up. I still have to do another live stream in Spanish now in 50 minutes. I will see you again in next week. Let's hang out again next week. Remember, if I don't make the event, it's not because I've forgotten you. It's just maybe I've been busy, and I will make it as soon as I can. This event was made like 2 minutes before 9. It's crazy, and you're still hanging out here, so you're amazing. Thank you. I will go away the same way we usually do it. So, okay, let's cut the piano. Let's get to some pumped action here. So, go full screen, and then let's bring it. Let's bring it. Watch your head. If you're using headphones, watch out. Yes. It's time. I will see you again next week, same place, same time. Ciao.